me, there's zero excuse because like I went like 4 years ago and I made the day the very first VR rig came out, where a rig for GoPros we could shoot virtual reality. The
Okay.
day it came out, the next day I had it literally, and I went and shot the very first underwater swimming with wild dolphins. It's on our website, Dolphin Project. If you watch it on our Facebook page or through YouTube, you get the 360 effect.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and it's basically you swimming with a pod of wild dolphins. It's narrated by Ian Somerhalder, the actor, and I made that for like 10 grand, that thing. And so the whole point of my video was like someone like SeaWorld could spend $1 million. I mean, the last orca that sold in captivity was $15 million, and then they probably had to build a $30 million tank, and then the upkeep. For $1 million, you could make the most incredible virtual reality experience where the whole group of people comes into a theater, puts on the goggles, and you're in the wild swimming in a pod of wild. It'd be incredible. So
Yeah.
we can do that for 10. Like, we don't need animals in captivity anymore. With VR, augmented reality, 3D, you can do incredible things that are far more immersive than any experience you're ever going to have in a zoo. Like,
So do you know any statistics on how many aquariums, like aquariums or SeaWorld locations there are in the US right now?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
And like what is like the trend with those places right now? Like what's going on with them? I know
In the
orcas.
US, I would say it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had the Cove, which created this wave of people now that love dolphins. And then you had a second hit with Blackfish. So the wave got bigger.
Yeah.
And so places that were new or on the drawing board basically aren't happening because, and then places like a recent place that had opened up in Arizona. There's one company that owns most of the swim places with dolphins in Mexico, and they started infiltrating the U.S. and they had opened up in New Mexico,
Mm.
and they had a dolphin death, and there was just some local people that were protesting all the time, and then they had another death, and then they had a third death, and we got involved, and we actually helped organize a couple protests right after the third dolphin death. And there was a huge golf tournament, like one of the biggest ones in the country. And so I rented a plane with a banner that said, Dolphinaris, why are 3 dolphins dead? And we flew it over the golf tournament. It was like something 200,000 people were on the ground at this golf course watching. It was live on TV. And the TV camera for the golf thing panned up to the camera, panned up to the plane. You see it on TV on the thing. And plus all the local media covered it.
No way.
While it's flying around, another dolphin died. And I literally had to fly in because all the banner planes were being used for the golf tournament. There was no numbers. I had to change the dolphin number for 3 to 4 because now 4 dolphins had died. Literally, as I'm flying the banner, a dolphin died. We had to fly in the number 4 from California on another plane. And we flew the banner the next day at the tournament. Why are 4 dolphins dead? And when the people saw that, it just crushed the place. And
So that aquarium.
within a week they were done and the dolphins were shipped off out of the country.
Wow.
And so there's that kind of groundswell. Like, you didn't see that 20 years ago, but 20 years ago it would have just been my dad and I, and we would have looked like freaks and they would have played us off as we're some fringe people. But now, literally within days, hundreds of people were in front of that place protesting, and like,
That's incredible.
We just changed that,
Now, your dad lives in Denmark, right?
He lives in Denmark.
Is there a reason that he lives there, or is it like just a personal thing?
He married a Danish woman, and she lived there for many years. But when the Code came out, probably for the 3 years after the Code was out, he basically was that, because when you have a movie that wins an Academy Award like that, you're just on the road. It's just week after week, somebody's wanting to screen it somewhere, the president of some country, and you can't say no. It's like, this could be an opportunity. So he was just on the road so much. She felt like if he wasn't around, she'd rather be back in Denmark than here. So they've just moved over there.
Okay. Now, is he still, how active is he still with?
Completely active. Like, I was just with him. But right before the quarantine, we were in Bali where we have a dolphin sanctuary, and we were preparing 2 dolphins that we're going to attempt to release there. And, but now with what's going on, he's 80 years old. It may not be safe for him to travel for a couple of years now. We'll see what happens. But up until now, he travels constantly.
So for when you went to Bali, for example, can you walk me through like what your guys' plan is when you go there and like what steps you guys take to release these dolphins?
When I went to Bali, I had a TV show, Blood Dolphins, and I was thinking about doing an episode there, so I went to investigate it. Because when you're doing a TV show, you want to find places that are rich where they have more than one dolphin story. Like Solomon's, if you watch that episode, there's Chris Porter, the dolphin dealer, in his facility, and I'm trying to shut him down and get the dolphin dealers out. And then this village is hunting dolphins and killing them, and I'm trying to stop that. And then there's some guy that had some dolphins in his backyard, and I'm trying to shut. So it had a lot of stories and angles. And so when you're doing for television, it's helpful to have a lot of things like that. And
Right.
so Indonesia was another place where there's a village that hunts dolphins. You had a traveling dolphin circus, the last traveling dolphin circus in the world. And then you had tons of swim places in Bali. And so it had many things going on. And so I decided to do an episode there. And then that led on to us beginning a campaign for 10 years in Indonesia. And so one campaign, like I said, was Free Bali Dolphins, which is Indonesia is a massive country, but most of the tourism is based in Bali. And so that's where all the swim with dolphins places are popping up. And so I was like, if I can get rid of all of them here, that'll be a massive step. There is other places in Indo that we'll work on, but that's a big one. It's and so that one, I work with people that are similar to me. I have people on the ground there that work for Dolphin Project full time on this. And we created a puppet show about why dolphins should be in captivity, and two of them that travel continuously every week in a different school, like around, hundreds of schools.
Okay.
Bali is one of the capitals right now for graffiti. All the biggest street artists in the world will stop passing through Bali. It's everywhere. And so I bought thousands of dollars in paint and gave free paint to any artist that would do a free Bali dolphin mural. And so they're everywhere. You go every city block, there's a massive dolphin, free Bali dolphin, and it's repetition. It's like the Obey posters.
Yeah.
You just see them so much. It's like a repetition thing. So we have so many of these free Bali things. It's like you see it block after block. I rented every video monitor at the airport. Like when you get off and you're waiting for your bags for 30 minutes, the screen had an animation I ran for free. Don't swim with captive dolphins in Bali. And I just hammered for years and years and years and just did press. And eventually we became partners with the actual government. We have a partnership with the forestry department who manages all the dolphin issues. And so any dolphin issue that arises in Indonesia, they call us. And so years ago, we call it Camp Lumba Lumba. We actually found this national park where it turns out all of the dolphins in Indonesia are being illegally captured out of this park. And so we built a facility there. That's where the dolphins that will be released will go to that facility, because chances are their families still live in that area. They're resident dolphins. Like when you see the cove in Japan, those are what's called transient dolphins. Those dolphins are swimming along, migrating thousands of miles along the coastline of Japan. Okay. And they happen, unfortunately, to come along the coastline near Taiji. Certain places have resident dolphins. Like in Miami, we have dolphins here that every time you go on your boat, you see the same dolphins. They just live in this area. They're not ever moving. And so there's a huge resident pod in this area. And so we found the fisherman. We've been able to identify who was actually catching them and how he was doing it. And what was happening is the aquariums would call this village and say, we want to buy 3 dolphins. Mm-hmm. So the expert fisherman guy, he would go out and catch 3 dolphins. And then he would basically phone it in as like, I accidentally caught 3 dolphins in my fishing net. Can you call the aquarium to come rescue them?
Wow.
And the aquarium comes and rescues them, and they never let them go. And that's like, there's about 70 dolphins in captivity in Indonesia that were all obtained that way. And so what I did is I built basically the first ever permanent release facility, because we released dolphins in the past, but it was always like a specific dolphin in Brazil, Flipper. He's one dolphin. We built the facility. We let him go. The facility got torn down. because there's many other dolphins in captivity there, I decided to make something permanent that's been there for about 10 years. Then recently in Bali, we just shut down a hotel called the Melka Hotel. And it was a hotel that they basically had dolphins in the swimming pool, and they built some other pools. And the guests could swim with dolphins. They were advertising dolphin assisted therapy. So they were getting a lot of families from Russia with autistic kids paying huge money to swim with the dolphins. And it got sold, and it's been going. It's always been a horrible place, but it's recently went really downhill. And so forestry department called us and said, look, we're going to shut these guys down. Either you guys take the dolphins or we'll move them to another facility. I didn't have anywhere to take them. So we confiscated 2 of the dolphins. We put them in a swim with place, and we rented some of their pens with the agreement that we're just going to keep them there for like 2 weeks. You just feed them. Do not let people swim with them. These are our dolphins. We're going to rent your pens. And in 2 weeks, I built a facility up in North Bali, and we've now moved the 2 dolphins that were still at the hotel and the 2 dolphins we had originally confiscated are now in that facility. And that facility is going to be where all dolphins now, when they're confiscated, will go there. And we determine there if they're candidates to be released. The ones that can be released, we would take and fly them to our other facility that is an area where they were captured, so that if they're released, they'll be released there. The dolphins that can't be released, like we have one now that we're sure because most of his teeth were removed, and he was in a pool with no filtration, so he's almost blind, and so he's not a candidate. And he's pretty old, and so he'll live out his life at our facility, retired and just living life. He doesn't have to do anything or work for a living or.
So those facilities that you have set up, those are basically in the ocean, right? They're just kind of like blocked off so they can't.
The one that's the relief facility is in about the deepest part is 15 feet, and so it's actually connected to the bottom. It's poles that go down into the sand and then has netting.
Okay.
The one that we have now that is the retirement center is in 60 feet of water, and it's 45 feet deep, so it doesn't touch the bottom. It hangs.
Okay.
And the dolphins, the ones that are retired, will be there forever.
Now, have you ever seen any kind of problems with these dolphins when you do release them back into the wild? Even if they are resident dolphins, do they ever have any sort of problems like reconnecting or psychological issues? Because, I mean, these animals are obviously incredible.
Definitely. So there's 2 things. All dolphins in captivity, any dolphin, can be readapted. And that means getting it out of its concrete chlorinated box and moving it into a sea pen where it can, the natural rhythms of the sea and not doing shows. We don't feed. When we feed our dolphins, it's not at the exact same time every day. Because in real life, you're not eating every day at 4:30. You're eating, sometimes you're missing a meal. Sometimes you're eating at 8:30. Sometimes, so that we mix it up so it's more like real life. And so all dolphins can be moved into a situation where they're in a natural sea pen. Those that then we feel are showing interest in the wild could be moved to that next stage of possibly being released. And so you're looking for different things like, we've seen a dolphin before. Like we this one in Argentina we worked with, or Colombia, sorry. Stefania. We built a sea pen out in the islands where she was captured. We moved her from the tank where she was to the sea pen. We built this huge sea pen off of the beach. Mm-hmm. We used the beach as one side of it and then built 3 squares. And she went to one corner and did the same circles that she did in her, because she was in a little round pool that she lived her life in, just going in circles. And we moved her to this massive pen, and she just went to one corner, did circles, and that was it. And so she was not a candidate to be released because, it's like prison. It's like some dudes go to prison and after 40 years walk out like nothing happened. And there's other people who go to jail for 2 years and they lose it, and they're not the same person ever again. And so we do have a protocol for releasing dolphins, but it's really a case-by-case basis. One thing doesn't work for all of them. It's like,
right.
So you want to see things like, we'll slowly start decreasing the amount of live fish we're giving them, the frozen fish that they're so dependent on. And we'll start catching, we catch live fish and we put it into a pen that's hanging in their pen so they can see the live fish. They're interested. They know it's something because we've got it in a pen. So it's special. and we get them interested in it, and we'll start taking those fish and throwing them, and hopefully you'll see the dolphins at first. Maybe they're not eating them, but they're just having fun catching them. And so you want to start to see that kind of stuff where some dolphins just aren't interested, and so they're not going to be candidates.
Right.
You know, maybe if wild dolphins come near, are they curious? Are they ignoring it? Or are they, seems like they're sending signals out? Like, so you're starting to look for those signs.
Okay.
And then as you get, you know, once you remove them from where we are now to like the release facility, there we're more like observing them through a blind. So we'll set up like a wall of palm fronds where we can see through that. They can't see us. And so we start to break that connection with man and start to feed them where they can't see us. And you start to just slow. And while you're doing that, you're watching it. Are they moving forward? Does it seem like they're digging this? And like, you know, it's obvious. Some start eating that live fish and boom, right away, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like, I'm all about this. And some aren't.
Oh yeah. That's amazing. And how many dolphins would you estimate that you guys release on a yearly basis? Or
not on a yearly basis, because you know there was a period where we did a bunch, like maybe in the 90s, and then it stopped, and then like we just helped. They just did a release in South Korea, and my dad went there a couple times, and they just basically followed his protocol, and we just talked to them all the time. But including those, I think that was like 6 dolphins. I would say maybe 20 to 25 we've been involved with one way or another.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's it going to take, man? What do you think is the next thing that's going to really kind of
Dolphins make more money in captivity than any other animal. So the threat is bigger. You know, the pushback from the industry is a lot bigger because there have been elephant sanctuaries for God knows how long, 30 years. There's
even more so than orcas, like Shamu. I mean, dolphins pull in more than that.
I include orcas. Orca is a dolphin. Orca is not a whale. Orca is the largest member of the dolphin family. So an orca is actually a chief.
Really?
So when I say or dolphins, I'm talking
as
well. And I think there's actually only one whale in the United States in captivity. I think it's on the East Coast somewhere. It's just one obscure like species. So basically everything you see in captivity is a dolphin.
So I guess my question was,
but all dolphins, yes, could be moved in. All dolphins can be readapted into a sea pen and retired with dignity. And every animal has that except for marine mammals. Every animal's had it for many, many years. There's been giraffe sanctuaries and primate sanctuaries. They're all over the world. They're forever. Dog, cat, everything. Every animal except for dolphin. Because dolphin in the right place will make more money than any other animal.